A few years ago, I had the privilege, the undeserved privilege, though painful, still a privilege of meeting my greatest fear. It was not failure, it was not the world, it was not even my addiction. Initially, I thought they were, but there was something much deeper. Speaking, though quietly, but still speaking. It was myself. It was myself. In a world where people face challenges, in a world where we are so much focused on the outside, it takes a man who is courageous enough to look more on the inside. The Apostle Paul in despair writes to the Romans and he says, the things that I want to do, I do not do. The things that I hate are the things that I do. A conflict between desire and strength of will. Still the self, though the divided self. Though the divided self. I want us to imagine an object. An object. We are all looking at the same object, but we see it differently. Why? Because the lenses through which we view the object are different. We view everything from our experiences, our shame, our trauma, our fears, and our failures. And they, in turn, affect our interpretation. Nietzsche says that there are no facts, there are only interpretations. And so, is it the perspective or is it the interpretation? Is it the fact or is it an interpretation? Here's what I discovered from my addiction, that you can recover from the substance. You can recover from the alcohol. You can recover from the drugs, but still not discover yourself. Because I did. I recovered from the substances, but I never recovered my sense of self, the lost self. And that was frightening. It was frightening. Because ideally, I thought that the day that I stopped using would be the day that I would discover myself. But the day I stopped was a day that I started on a different journey, a journey of discovery of self. And so, to the man on the outside, addiction looks like a substance problem. But to the man courageous enough to look on the inside, addiction, he sees himself, though unclear, though broken, but still himself, the distorted self. These are the reflections of the mind of an addict, the thoughts, the limitations that we have in our journey to recovery. I discovered that as addicts, our focus is on the external, but never on the internal. That's why I asked, is it a question of perception or perspectives? Because many a times we believe it's the pain from the outside, but it's the pain from the inside. And so what do? Do we focus on a lens that has been corrupted by trauma? Do we focus on a lens corrupted by failure? Or do we look for clarity? Because in all this, I look for clarity. I need to listen. I needed to see, but from a lens not defined by the limitations of my wounds and my traumas. And so I began to listen. I began to search within and on the outside. And I found that to overcome, I must put down the ego, that I must fight a battle, that there is something called acceptance. And acceptance is the challenge. Why? Because acceptance would be me admitting that I had a problem. And every addict doesn't want to admit that they have a problem. But the journey of recovery begins when a man admits that he has a problem. And I admitted that I had a problem. And in my acceptance, I decided to change. But what was change? Change would mean surrendering a version of myself that I'd spent my entire life manufacturing. Surrendering an image I'd kept portraying to my friends, to my family, and letting that image go and sit silently with the man on the inside and sit quietly and meditate on the faults without the achievements, on me, myself, without the outside. In a world full of distractions, it is so easy to lose yourself. In a world full of addictions, it's so easy to lose yourself. Maybe there are parts of yourself that you do not like to see or you would not want to see. Sometimes addiction could be an attempt to silence the parts of yourself that begin to speak and yet you do not want to listen. Sometimes addiction is an escape from the parts of yourself that you do not want to see and yet you have to see. So it takes courage to look on the inside and not on the outside. When the titles were gone, when everything was stripped away, everything was gone, I sat alone with the question that who am I really? Not my mother's son, not my father's son, not an addict, just me. And I did not know that man. I did not know that man. So I had to look for that man. In a world full of distractions, may you have the courage to search yourself and ask what is real and what is an illusion. Because we have a lot of illusions than things that we hold as real. Think back to that word. Did it carry the same weight it did? Or was it just perspectives? Think back to that situation that was so difficult. Was it as difficult as you thought it was? Or was it just a game of perception and perspectives? In a world full of distractions, have the courage to ask yourself the right questions and accept the change that comes with it. In a world where men are seeking for validation, may you have the courage to search within and find a man worth becoming. Thank you.